Hello and welcome to the Thinking Gap Solutions podcast, talking everything content, audience engagement and leadership. My name is Kay. Alongside me, hello, Mickey Maher.
Kay, great to be here.
I nearly threw on you that we changed the episode because over here, for anyone who's not in Australia, it's an election on at the moment. I feel like there's a podcast. When can your content strategy actually start to piss people off?
Because it can. I think we've just seen that in the last couple of weeks, haven't we?
No, I don't need to see Pete Dutton and Elbow anymore. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the episode today. The very center of what we do in our business and conversations that we have with almost everyone that we catch up with, whether they're launching a podcast, building a personal brand, or trying to stand out in a cluttered space, and one that we became very proficient at because it was a critical piece working in the media. We're talking about your point of difference, why it matters, how to find it, and what happens when you don't. So, Mickey, we're seeing it in radio, real estate, betting, startups, you name it. Why do you think most still skip this step or underestimate the benefit of having a point of difference?
I think because many people focus too much on the industry they're in and focus on what has always been historical. Maybe you're focusing more on the product you're selling or the service that you're selling as opposed to finding that point of difference and selling that and selling your product and your services through your point of difference. Sometimes there's a fear of differentiation, that fear of if I'm out here on my own here, or I'm doing things slightly different, is that going to expose? Is it going to succeed? So that fear of failure can sometimes come into play. Also, lack of understanding the power of it. The amount of clients that you and I have met with, I think when we've asked people what's their point of difference, I think the first is a blank look and the second is comments to go, I'm actually not really sure. That just reinforces to me that people are undervaluing how important it is.
Get you to break it down, Mickey. I think that the term gets thrown around a lot. So let's explain it properly. What is a point of difference and what does it actually give you if you do get it right?
Point of difference allows you to differentiate from your competitors, even if it is that you sell similar products or similar services, but finding what is it that makes you uniquely you. What is the benefit to the consumer, the audience, that sets you apart or is going to set you apart? And then how do you amplify, promote that on a consistent basis?
So it sounds like it's not just what you do, it's what can make you impossible to replace. Find that point of difference. Let's bring that idea to life and talk about some real life examples. They're the brands that are doing it really well, some recognizable brands who've nailed their point of difference. And because of that, they've built an audience.
Well, Bunnings is definitely one of those. If you think about it, up until the point of Bunnings coming into the market, there was the local trade stores and those kind of things, which were typically, for the most part, used by professionals in their trade and maybe the occasional weekend do-it-yourselfer. And then all of a sudden, Bunnings come in these big sheds, the big green ones you can't miss, and really set themselves up as a community-based brand that I guess has encouraged everyday people to think that, hey, we can be tradies too. We can do it yourself. And they offer some fantastic, great community initiatives, things like their workshops that they do. Obviously, their cost point is something that they really pride themselves on and push that point consistently. They won't be beaten on price. But it's a real community hub.
It's truly been an amazing job to turn something which is a massive national juggernaut into something that looks so community and so clever, even with the way that they use their advertising and marketing. Actual people who work inside of Bunnings really makes it grassroots, doesn't it?
They only use their real staff in their marketing. There's not many brands that actually use their own staff consistently as this is who's selling us. It's not a professional actor or anything like that. And I think that's another thing that steps them apart and part of their POD.
From no showrooms to 120, what can creators and small brands learn from someone like Koala?
These guys saw an opportunity in the market to go, okay, well, we want to be environmentally conscious. We believe we've got a great product. It's Australian made up against the big ones like your Harvey Normans and some of your others and stuff. And how do we showcase what we do? Well, obviously they push their eco-friendly materials, but they also do that, we back our product here that you can go and you can have it for 120 days. If you don't like it, send it back and no questions asked. I think that's a smart one to go. We back ourselves so much and you don't have to come. We'll ship it straight to you. No problems with returning it. You don't have to come to a showroom necessarily. If you don't like it, we'll come back and take it off your hands.
They sell furniture, but I look at that brand and I think of eco and caring about the environment.
Yeah.
We talk to those that we work with. If you've got a genuine higher purpose that you can attach to your brand, it can be such a lovely piece and really engage people with your brand as well. Now, very stacked category is food in general, but Mexican food, sombreros, another great example of finding that point of difference.
Yeah, and I know this firsthand because my kids love going here to Zambreros, and look, they sort of pride themselves on their plate for plate initiative, and you can't mistake when you go into one of their stores. There's typically a digital live update with the millions of free meals that they're giving away. It's basically, you buy a meal and they pay for a meal for someone who is less fortunate that needs a feed. And as you purchasing it, you can see the numbers on the wall, and it's not a local one, it's an international number, and it's significant. You see it and you go, wow. And from my experience, the kids ask, well, what's that about? And you have all of a sudden it starts a conversation. So it becomes more than just having a good feed. It's actually, well, geez, they're doing something great, so why don't we go there?
We have seen it play out working with Thinking Cap Solutions and also in our media careers, front row, seeing the difference, a clear point of difference makes. So let's get into some real examples because we do have 20 years experience. Let's start with media and radio, point of difference and success.
Hamish and Andy's absolutely one of those when they come on the market. Probably the only other significant famous male duo on radio was Martin Malloy. The difference with Hamish and Andy, a lot younger, different target audience. Their philosophy was on We Are the People show. We're about the people. And so much so that they're not on radio anymore, but they are still the number one consumed product in Australia through their podcast. So they knew their brand. It evolved as all good brands do, but they knew their point of difference. The funny thing around that was what we saw in the radio and media landscape was copycat syndrome, where for ages after you were seeing radio networks, media companies putting two men together and trying to replicate that, and none of them were ever close to the same success as Hamish and Andy. And that's the thing, if you've got a great point of difference and if you execute it exceptionally well and consistently, it makes it very hard for anyone to try and take that turf from you. Kyle and Jackie O, you can either love them or hate them. And in fact, that's what they've built their brand on. You either love us or hate us, but they're also part of their key point of difference in the radio world has been high celebrity, mass prizes, shock radio. If you miss listening to the show, you are going to miss out on significant, compelling stories that everyone's going to be talking about at work the next day. And that's kept them in good stead. And again, you like them or hate them, they're highly successful ratings, and they're the most highest paid radio team in Australian radio on a $200 million deal. So you can't walk away from that.
And it might sound really simple to talk about the People's Show, but you've got to keep in mind, in the market at that stage, everyone was coming with, we're going to do this and we're going to come up with this great idea and you come along on the journey. Hamish and Andy with the simple little flip the script, still do big ideas, but the listener drove it. You would hear that show where it could be someone who joined the show and they'd build an idea of what that listener said, and then the listeners would jump on. It became their idea and not the show's idea. And that was very different to everything else going around. And look at all the copycats that have come off the back of that. Unfortunately, if you don't find the point of difference first, the danger of it, unless you execute it really poorly, we can't lose sight of that, and someone else does it better than you and you've done it poorly, once someone gets a point of difference, you're Pepsi, you're not Koala. You want to be first, and I think that's the key here. There isn't an amount of urgency, I think, that you do want to find your point of difference. All right, now let's talk about a category that we've got a fair bit of passion around, Mickey, because we could see the opportunity, because they are in content world, they are in connection world, they are in people world, and that's real estate agents.
Our broad observation here is a significant amount in the industry don't know their point of difference, or if they do, they're not leveraging it. And the great thing is the outside looking in perspective for, that what we see, and this is around the whole country, probably globally, is a lot of agents present themselves much the same. Their social content is much the same. The way they go, the way they speak, the way they look, the way they present themselves is all the same. We get it. You're there to sell houses, but how do you get the listing? Ideally, you want it because you've built your personal brand through your point of difference to go, this is someone I want to list with.
Listing, sale, listing, sale, listing, sale. Every script looked like it's put through ChatGPT. It doesn't become a weapon. I do know those who are doing it really well, who actually, like Mark Steinway, someone that I look at, he doesn't talk about real estate. He talks about being a thought leader and personal development. And by virtue of that, his real estate business piggybacks off that. And you've got a wonderful example of someone who's actually doing it in Brisbane and doing it really well.
Tamara Hall. I don't know her personally. I have met her, but I don't know her personally. I've tracked what her success rate is. She's now gone out on her own. She worked for many agents, but she's very clear on what her personal brand is. It's about prestige. It's about luxury. She's a thought leader. She's a successful, proud businesswoman that goes and speaks on the speaker circuit to help promote and support women through leadership. And she sells a truckload houses as well. She's very clear. She's consistent with her look and feel. She's consistent with her messaging. And there's no one else that's doing that in a really competitive market. And there's people that have been around longer than her, but she's got her own path and she's really driving that. Records on the board through selling plenty of houses. And equally, I think last year she got rated number 2 agent in the country. And Brisbane's not, you think Sydney, Melbourne, you think there'd be several agents in those markets alone but Tamara has consistently worked that she knows her brand, and it's a credit to her.
And that's your opportunity. If you can have and find that point of difference with a content strategy to exploit you, to exploit your brand, to exploit what you stand for, to exploit what you are good at, revenue and success will follow. And this is a passion project of ours, and one that we're really proud to have given birth to. Had our first episode recently, and that's the Blokes in Mining podcast.
It's great to work with Drew, who was the thought leader behind the idea, and to work with him through the Thinking Cap Solutions process we go through to turn the Blokes in Mining brand into a podcast. When we looked at the competitive landscape, there's a bunch of podcasts out there that target a same or similar audience. They don't spend a lot of their time talking about what life is really like on site. A bunch of them have a heavy potty mouth and not that we're prudes by any means, but that's not going to appeal to every audience or to every advertiser. There are some podcasts out there that try and appeal to your FIFOs and your miners, but it's very corporate speak, very HR. So there was kind of one or the other. And what we could work with Drew on is finding the point of difference, which is there's this absolute audience here. You and your co-host Dave are living and breathing this. There's other podcasts that are appealing to this audience. They don't have the years of experience as well. So you can talk with credibility from it. And also you're not limited because you're not in head office, so you're not working for HR. You can speak openly about this stuff that will be really resonate with your audience. And not only that, these guys have a higher purpose. Their higher purpose is not just to have a laugh and that relatability, but they can see the mental health challenges, the financial limitations that some of these people have, and even the physical health, and they want to make a difference there. And we identified the point of difference, and we've got a product out there, and it seems to be resonating already.
For anyone who's out there going, okay, I get it. I need a point of difference. But how do I actually find mine? In simple steps, Mickey, just break it down step by step.
First thing is you need to have that sort of helicopter to view, sit above to really think about objectively through, okay, well, what does set me apart? Now, if it's a personal brand, it's what are those traits of my personality that put me in good stead and make me stand out against my competitors. If you're a brand more so, like less than a personal brand, more of a product brand, then what are you offering that your competitors can't? So that outside looking in perspective, and that's something that you and I pride ourselves on with Thinking Cap Solutions, and that's typically what is our first step with any client, and it's typically the first thing we get credit for, going, oh my God, I can't believe you nailed our sector. You've read me like a book and you've understood the competitive landscape, because that's what we do. It's that outside looking in perspective to go, we can sort of see clearly, because sometimes if you're in the weeds, the obvious things actually aren't that obvious to you. And so you need to find a way to step back. So if you can't do it yourself, you get someone like us, or there's other businesses out there that can help you. But that's what we do is give you that outside looking perspective in. We ask the right questions is the next thing. What questions do I need to be asking myself or being asked to help me unpick what are those things that are different? Because we want you to think about your audience and what's the benefit you're adding to them, and how do you link all these points together? What's the gap in the market? So what's that doing? And not enough is done in this space either, Corey, and you and I have seen this more often than not. When we ask clients, so tell us about your competitors, they'll know their names, but when we go, what's their point of difference? They don't really know. So you spend some time doing it. It takes time, but guess what? Do this and you're fast tracking your growth. Trust me on this. So what's your competitors good at? What's their weaknesses? of all your competitors in the similar or same industry, where's the gap? Is that a strength of yours? Can you make it a strength of yours? And then seeking feedback, obviously. So if you're an established brand, what are you doing to seek feedback? For us in radio world, it was a lot of market research, qualitative type of research. With brands that we've worked with, Corey, part of it is when we're with brands at onboarding someone, we go, what questions can you ask to get a greater understanding of who they are? We often, quite depending on the brand, we typically encourage our clients, can you start an online community where you can start to interact with them and they can share feedback and you can collaborate with them? Because there's no greater feedback than speaking with your audience and understanding. And for some, if you're in retail land or cafe, ask some questions. Someone's buying a coffee. Coffee's on me if I can ask you a couple of questions. There's not enough of that happening as well. Quite often brands will base their success purely on how much product they sell or they don't. And of course, that's a key indicator, no question about it. But you want to know more than that. And you want to be able to pick up on clues on why they might be buying the product or why there might be a decline in sales. So if you ask the right questions and you talk to your audience, then you'll start to get some insights on that. The final point would be, don't try and be everything. You can't take on all your competitors and you can't please everyone. More often than not, finding your niche can be the most powerful thing you do. And quite often clients get freaked out by that. Oh, but no, I want to appeal to as many people as I can. Well, the counter to that is you try and appeal to everyone, you stand for nothing. Know your difference and don't be afraid of going niche.
Fortune favours the brave, Mickey. There's courage in some of these examples that we gave. For example, you talked about Tamara Hall putting herself out there. That is courageous because you're up for judgment. But, the success, you can see that with her. The last thing you want to do is just run into this without actually seeking some guidance. That could be a massive mistake. What we're saying is you definitely want to find your point of difference, but you want to do it in a very strategic and a very calculated way. So your point of difference, it isn't a nice to have, it's the foundation. If you're building a brand, a business, a show, and you don't know what makes you different, then you need to stop and you need to fix that immediately. And at Thinking Cap Solutions, this is what we do. This is what we love. We come in, we dig deep, we pull back the layers and find your point of difference and build a content strategy around it. If you want any help uncovering yours, just get in touch with us.
Yeah, you can get us at our website, thinkingcapsolutions.com.au, or reach out to us on LinkedIn, Thinking Cap Solutions, all one word.